Hello nerds and nerdettes, and welcome back to the channel where we have a exciting video for you guys. Today's video is going to be my haul of December 2024. Which are the videos that I love making the most because I get to have a little bit of fun when filming and editing, but it also seems like you guys enjoy watching them as well. But before we jump into the haul, two quick reminders. First and foremost, we do have a channel sponsor, which is organicpricebooks.com. You can use the channel's discount code staynerdy for $2 off your order, or when ordering 4 or more books, you can use the code staynerdyshipittogether to save yourself 5% on that entire order. Those codes are great ways to not only save yourself some money when ordering from OPB, but it also does contribute to the channel. So thank you to anyone that decides to use those codes. And the second reminder is that we do our hauls here on this channel in a specific order. We do start with manga, work our way to indie/smaller publisher. Notice the smaller publisher portion. So yes, Image books, Dark Horse books will be in here. I know. And then we will wrap up the video with DC and Marvel. But let's go ahead and jump into this haul, starting with, like I said, manga. And coming up first in manga, we do have the Trigun Deluxe Editions, or Trigun Maximum Deluxe Editions, volumes 2 and 3. I am collecting these as they come out. I think I may be behind a volume. Not 100% sure on that, but these are Dark Horse Deluxe Edition mangas. They are beautiful editions. They are my favorite way to collect and read manga, so pretty much anything Dark Horse puts out in this format, more than likely I'm going to pick up, and I've picked up everything they've put out so far. That being said, I've said tons about the Trigun story in other hauls, because this isn't the first time that Trigun has appeared in a haul. It's essentially about a character named Vash Stampede, who's a pacifistic gunslinger going after his brother Million Knives. There is a Trigun series that takes place before Trigun Maximum, but they are all being collected in these deluxe editions, so you got to get the Trigun 2 volumes and then continue the story in Trigun Maximum. So that's essentially what we have here. It is a little confusing when you're hunting down these books or trying to pick up these books. I haven't read a ton of Trigun. I've only watched the anime, which I did enjoy, but I don't know how it reads, so I can't give my opinion too much on that. But these editions are beautiful, and I'm going to pick up anything that Dark Horse puts out in this format. So no matter what, you're probably going to see deluxe edition manga on my hauls, and that may be the case with this haul. So let's jump to the next book. Spoiler, it is the case with this haul because we have a lot of deluxe edition mangas. This is Vinland Saga Book 5 Deluxe Edition, where Dark Horse is the publisher that is putting out Trigun, put out Blade of the Immortal, and Berserk. This is actually from Kodansha. They are getting on the deluxe edition bandwagon due to obvious popularity, especially when it comes to those Berserk deluxe editions. Vinland Saga is my second favorite manga that I've ever read. It's probably in the top 10 favorite thing that I've ever read in my life. A lot of lessons can be learned with this story. It's a story about revenge, about forgiveness. It follows the character of Thorfinn trying to get revenge for the death of his father, Thor's, but everything goes a little bit awry, and it jumps into a multitude of other genres and topics and lessons that you can learn, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Highly recommend this manga, whether you're a manga reader or not. It is really just that good. Now, I did share a theory on the channel when these first started getting released that every 2 volumes was going to be a different color. This book does indeed confirm that. We do have the Vinland Saga Deluxe Editions Volume 1 and 2, which are red, and then we have 3 and 4, which are black, and it looks like 5 and 6 are going to be this orangey brown rust color. So we are going to get different colors every 2 volumes. It's not the decision I would make as far as the design of the books, but it's Vinland in an oversized format. I'm just happy I have it, so it is what it is. But let's go ahead and wrap this up and jump to the next book. Ubelblot. This is Ubelblatt, and this is a dark fantasy, and it's usually sitting in the same room as Berserk, and a lot of comparisons are made between this series and Berserk. Do I think any comparison is valid to make when comparing to Berserk? Absolutely not. Berserk is a masterpiece, and I don't think this is even going to touch the greatness that is Berserk, but the fact that it sits in the same genre means that I want to check it out and at least give it a read. The fun aspect about these deluxe editions is there was a larger, almost omnibus paperback edition that was collecting all of this series. I think there was like 13, including a volume 0. I actually had volume 0 and the final volume. I was planning on collecting them. They went extremely out of print, but here we are with now a deluxe edition coming into print, so who cares about those anymore? So the difference between all of the deluxe editions are very abundant, and that's kind of crazy to say because they, next to each other, they look like the same book, but they are not. Ubelblatt, for example, the leather of the actual book itself feels a little bit cheaper, and the paper quality is very light, so I'm assuming that's a little bit cheaper as well. Whereas the Dark Horse editions are probably the superior manga deluxe edition out there. They're very sturdy, they're very heavy. I've dropped a multitude of my Dark Horse deluxe editions, and they are unscathed, they are beautiful. But this being super light makes it easier to read, so I do enjoy that, and it is designed very beautifully, very similar to all the other deluxe editions. We obviously have gold embossed lettering, and then obviously the image, but my favorite part about this specific deluxe edition for Ubelblatt is the actual pages of the book itself has a design on it, which I think is a awesome touch, makes it feel even more mythical, if you will, because it's like elven scribe or scripture on the side of it with a elven statue. So it's very fitting and a beautiful touch, and I really enjoy this edition so far. I don't know much more about the title, but once I read it, of course, I will share my thoughts. And last up for manga is a box set. It is always a good day when we receive a box set. I actually got this for Christmas, and this is the Legend of Zelda, a manga adaptation box set, I believe is the title of it. Now, one of the coolest aspects about this, for anybody that hasn't played Legend of Zelda, maybe you're living under a rock, this is designed in the form of the chests that you find in pretty much all of the Legend of Zelda games. And one of the coolest aspects about this box set is it actually comes with a sound when opening it. Just kidding, my speaker burnt out. That is a major issue with all of these box sets. Pretty much no one's speaker came working. There's a way to repair it. I'm not doing it, but there is a way if you want to. Obviously, it's a box set, so it comes with extras, and the coolest part about this, for me personally, is that all of these Legend of Zelda volumes are hardcover, and I think this is the only way to get these volumes in hardcover, because the only time that I've really seen them in the wild are in the softcover format. So really excited to have this in the possession. I'm a huge fan of box sets. Obviously, I collect manga. Anybody that does typically is a fan of box sets, but this is one of the best out there just because of the design and the speaker that they did put in, which was very thoughtful, but maybe the functionality wasn't thought through, but really good stuff. But that does wrap up manga, so we can jump into the indie/smaller publisher portion of the video. Next up is Body Count by Kevin Eastman and Simon Bisley. This is a hardcover edition, and from what I hear, it's pretty out of print. I don't exactly know why, but this is essentially a Ninja Turtles and Casey Jones story. What do I think about the story? It's a book and you can read it. That's about all I have to say about it. It is not good. It is super 90s. It is really strange. I thought I was going to be a little bit more of a Simon Bisley fan, but it seems like I'm not. This is my first of his works that I've jumped into. Simon Bisley does the art and the penciling and everything internally, and then Kevin Eastman does the layouts and writing. Now, it is a Ninja Turtle book, so I'm going to keep it in the collection because I love Ninja Turtles. But do I recommend this as your exposure to Ninja Turtles? Absolutely not. But that being said, it is such a product of its time. It's super 90s, it's super edgy, there's a lot of violence and TNA in here, and it just seems like they're trying to, you know, shift the Ninja Turtles towards a different audience, hoping that it would stick. But this was not the way, in my opinion. But still, it's cool to have in the collection. I kind of like products of their time, books like this, like almost historic pieces in the collection too, to kind of see where comics were at during that time period. But really interesting book. That's about all I have to say. Cool to have in the collection. Now to some good Ninja Turtle material. This is the Ninja Turtle hardcover compendium volume 3. This is the stuff by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They do have some help throughout, but this is the original series when it first came out. There are 3 hardcover compendiums that are collecting all of the issues from when they first became a thing over at Mirage Studios, and I'm really excited to have this material in the collection. I think I've mentioned in a multitude of videos that I was really planning on picking up those Ultimate Collection, but man, did those go out of print. And then OPB JP over at Organic Price Books made me a really good deal on the first 2 compendiums, so I figured, why not? I will start with the compendiums, pick them up, and abandon my mission of the Ultimate Collections. This is a great format to pick it up. These are quite pricey if you ask me. They do have a cover price of $150, so they are quite pricey for compendiums. Hardcover or not, doesn't really matter. They do come with a ribbon, which I like ribbons, but I'm not going to pay that much more for them. But really good stuff here. This is the original Turtles series, at least a continuation of the original Turtles series before they kind of jumped around to other publishers. But really, really great stuff. This is a good point to jump onto Turtles at not volume 3 obviously, but the hardcover compendiums. That is where they pretty much came to be and exist in comics, so you get to see them from the very start, and you could actually follow them almost all the way through comics throughout collected editions that have been put out. So really excited to get more Turtles, huge Turtles fan, and I'm pumped to have it in the collection. This is Once in Future by Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora, deluxe edition, book 2. This is a beautiful edition being put out by Boom Studios. There are 2 volumes so far. This is the 2nd volume that collects the last bit of this series. I did read the 1st volume and did not absolutely love it. I'm not very well versed in King Arthurian lore, so I feel like a lot of the story elements went a little bit over my head, but this does follow a family of monster hunters essentially trying to stop King Arthur from being resurrected so he can rule the world, and it is a very, very interesting story, especially if you're a fan of that King Arthurian lore and stories that are out there already that you probably learned about in your history classes in elementary school, but clearly I did not. But that being said, I can pretty much read any story that has Dan Mora on it. Dan Mora can illustrate a book about someone making a sandwich, and I will probably enjoy it. So my main selling point of this book for me personally is the Dan Mora art. The art or the story itself is a little whatever to me, but Dan Mora's art is magnificent throughout this entire title, so of course that's why I picked up volume 2. Huge fan of Dan Mora, much like pretty much everyone in this hobby at this point, so I'm excited to get more Dan Mora into the collection and experience even more of his works that he's contributed to. And last but not least, we do have a absolute unit of a book, and that is The Woods by James Tynion and Michael Dialynas. Hopefully I'm not butchering that too bad, but like I mentioned, this is a absolute chunky boy. I mean, this thing is a literal weapon. You can probably defend your home and country with this book because it is that heavy and that dense. It probably gives omnibuses a run for their money, other than Blackest Night and Final Crisis omnibus, looking at you guys that are complete just trucks of books and hard to hold. Getting off topic, but this book was sold to me by Omar over at Near Mint Condition, where he said this is the comic book version or comic books answer to the Drifting Classroom, which is a manga that I really, really enjoyed. It was a little bit dated for me when it came to the artwork and kind of the storytelling style, but I still liked the concept and the plot points overall. And from what Omar says, this is exactly that, but in comic book form. And I'm going to sign up for that no matter what. He said there is Lord of the Flies elements in here as well. But the other part that really sold me on this specific book is just this edition. This is a absolutely beautiful book. I love that the cover looks like almost a novel's cover. It gives absolutely nothing away to the story. I did do a brief flip through just to take a look at the art, which I am a fan of, and I am really excited to get into this one. If you all have read this, comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I'm really excited to get this in, and I am very surprised at the size of this book. I don't know how this went this many issues, and I've never heard of The Woods. But then again, I'm kind of a noob to the indie and image kind of side of comic books, mainly a mainstream pleb over here. So, but anyway, I digress. This is one that I'm really pumped to get in, and we are ending the indies portion of this video on a banger and a massive book. So let's go ahead and jump into the big two, starting with DC. And first up for DC, we do have the Man of Steel Standard Edition hardcovers, volumes 1 through 3. Yes, there are 4 of these. 4 is apparently harder to get than a shiny Pokemon in a Pokemon game, so I guess I won't be getting that anytime soon. But what's really going to happen here is, now that I got all of these volumes and spent my money on them, we're probably going to get a omnibus announcement just so DC can really twist the knife in my gut. But this is John Byrne's Man of Steel. This was him reinventing and almost rebooting the character of Superman post Crisis on Infinite Earths. It is absolutely beautiful. This is one of John Byrne's best works in my opinion, and a great starting point for the character of Superman. Now, these editions are standard edition hardcovers. They are not deluxe editions. They do collect a decent amount of issues, so they're pretty thick books. But that being said, there's been a rumor of a Man of Steel omnibus eventually being made for the better half of like 5 years. So if you do want to wait on that, I don't blame you. I would have waited as well, but I found all of these at discount bookstores and probably spent total 20 bucks on all 3 of these books. So that's a total win. I'm going to take that deal no matter what. And then worst case scenario, if the omnibus comes out, I'm losing 20 bucks. I can maybe sell them or put them into a giveaway. So no harm, no foul there. Just excited to get this into the collection and reread the beginnings of Superman again in comic book format. And here we are with more Superman hype. This is Superman Kryptonite, the deluxe edition. This is a very impactful book, not only because this retells the story of Superman experiencing kryptonite for the first time in his superhero career, but the creative team that is on this book, both of them are no longer with us, which makes this book 10 times better to have in the collection, in my opinion, because it's a way that we can remember these creators and these individuals and everything that they sacrificed throughout their career. This is written by Darwin Cook, who is a incredible writer. He is the creator that also did The New Frontier. And then we do have Tim Sale, who is the artist that you see on those Marvel color storylines with Jeff Loeb. He was also on The Long Halloween with Jeff Loeb. He often collaborated with Jeff Loeb. He was also on Superman for All Seasons as well. So 2 creators that are super impactful in the actual comic book world, and they are living on through this work, among many other, obviously, but to see them together on this made this book hit that much more closer to home and hit you right in the feels, seeing that this is us experiencing 2 people that are no longer with us, and they get to live on once we read this and add it to our collection. So definitely a book worth having for that reason alone, but it's an incredible story also. Next up for DC, we have a DC Black Label Omnibus, which is iZombie by Chris Robinson with art by Mike and Laura Allred. I used Christmas as an opportunity to pick up a lot of backlog books that weren't exactly at the top of my priority list. Also, a lot of these Christmas gifts that you're going to see were fairly inexpensive. I don't like my family spending a lot of money on me, so I'm not going to give them book or gift ideas that are the most expensive or hard to find omnibus out there. I just give them something that I really kind of always wanted but never really had the chance to pick up because of other releases that came out. And iZombie falls directly in that catalog, at least in my brain. So this is a story that I have not read. I've only watched the TV show, which started off pretty good and then got kind of bad at the end. But from what I hear, the source material, which is the comic book, is absolutely phenomenal. But that being said, whether it's phenomenal or not, I'm going to pick up a book that has Mike and Laura Allred on it no matter what. They've illustrated some of my favorite stories, and I love the culture shock that is their art when you open up a book, and you get to see almost this 90s or 70s like pop flair style of artwork to go along with these stories that we know and love, or characters that we know and love. So really excited to get into this one, get more Mike Allred into the collection, and read it and see if it really is better than the TV show, or if the TV show is better than the comic book. I hear they're very different, but I want to have my own opinion on it once I read it. Next up for DC, we do have 3 books, 2 of which that do go together. The third one does not, but this entire lot goes together. This is a gift from JP over at Organic Price Books that he gave to all of his sponsors for repping and supporting the Organic Price Books name. He gave us the opportunity to choose 3 books that we could essentially have sent our way. I took that opportunity to catch up on some Batman books because we all have enough Batman, but as far as me spending my money on Batman, I don't know if I'm exactly there, unless it's a Batman book that I truly, truly love. But I figured why not finally pick up these Batman by Scott Snyder New 52 omnibuses, Volume 1 and 2, which completes all of his run. And then I've had Batman Eternal, the omnibus, for quite a while, ever since it got reprinted. And now we have Batman and Robin Eternal, the omnibus, which is kind of a companion piece or sequel to the Batman Eternal storyline, which was a weekly series being ran by Scott Snyder that they were trying to put out, very reminiscent to that of 52, but Batman. Don't exactly love Batman Eternal. Don't exactly love Batman and Robin Eternal or the issues that are collected in here. I do really, really like Scott Snyder's New 52 Batman run. I don't think it's the best Batman run. I know that opinion has been going around for a very long time. I think that's more or less due to recency bias, but it is still really, really good. The first omnibus is incredible. That's where you're going to find Court of Owls and the death of the family in here, and then on this portion you're going to have Endgame, and then you're eventually going to lead into a new Batman becoming the vigil of Gotham City and fighting crime, and that's where it gets really, really bad. But I'm getting off topic. I'm happy to have these. I'm so thankful for JP and Organic Price Books, them being a sponsor of this channel since it was created, and being incredibly supportive when it comes to allowing us to overview books and see books and get information ahead of time. So thank you so much to Organic Price Books. Make sure you guys pick up your books from them because they are the best in the game when it comes to packaging, customer service, and great prices. Next up for DC, we have more Superman hype. I love seeing Superman omnibuses. This is Superman the Exile and Other Stories. I always forget the Other Stories part of the title of the omnibus, but this is a Superman omnibus, and this is collecting a handful of stories that took place post Man of Steel. So this is a little bit of a gap filler omnibus. We love gap filler omnibuses because it allows us to collect things chronologically. That being said, this is a sleeper omnibus. There is a lot in here that is really, really good. And I think most people that jump into this omnibus think it's going to be kind of blah, it's not going to be super great, and then they always come out of the other end really, really enjoying the story. So I definitely highly recommend this specific omnibus. I recommend Superman as a character. Read his stories. They are absolutely magnificent and beautiful. He's a great character, and this is one omnibus where you will see exactly why that is. And last up for DC, we have probably one of my favorite releases of the year for sure. Well, it was probably in my video that you may or may not have recently watched, covering my top 5 DC releases of the year of 2024, but this is Aquaman by Peter David. So if you liked Aquaman by Jeff Johns and you thought Jeff Johns really made Aquaman badass and a likable character, Peter David did it first. He did it first in the 90s, and he knew exactly what he was doing with the character. This is going to be the run where you get the Time and Tide storyline. You're going to get the Tempest issues in here. You're also going to see the progression of Aquaman from the kind of more regal king to the warrior with the chip on his shoulder and the harpoon hand and the armor and the long flowing blonde locks. So you're going to see that progression of this character into that form, which is probably one of the most known versions of Aquaman. But throughout this book, you're also going to get tons of Atlantean lore built up and explained. There is some prior reading that I recommend, which is Aquaman, Death of the Prince, and Atlantis Chronicles. I do recommend reading those. Those are collected in deluxe editions, I believe, before jumping into this. But that being said, this is an incredible run on Aquaman. This makes Aquaman a badass character and could make Aquaman one of your favorite characters. So I do recommend giving it a chance, despite it being about the guy that talks to fish, but it is really that good and I highly recommend it. First up for Marvel, we have a OHC. Rest in peace to that format. This is fantastic for Fate of the Four by Chip Zdarsky and Jim Cheung. This is a little bit of a product of its time piece, very reminiscent to that of Body Count. This is a story that was being told at the end of the James Robinson run on Fantastic Four? It wasn't the Dan Slott. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. This is essentially Marvel not knowing what to do with the Fantastic Four and potentially deciding to end the Fantastic Four title. And you kind of follow Human Torch and the Thing as they look for Reed and Sue. During this time at Marvel, which is post Secret Wars 2015, this is the era where they didn't know what to do with the characters. Thing was doing a bunch of team-ups with random teams and characters throughout Marvel. Human Torch was kind of nowhere to be found also, and you get to see exactly why that is and how this story comes to an end. But you also are going to get the Superior Iron Man character appearing in here, which is the good version of Iron Man, or Victor Von Doom, or Dr. Doom, whatever is the proper way of describing that character. You're going to get his appearance throughout here and see his confliction as a character, which is probably my favorite part of this specific story. But it's an OHC. We don't see OHCs anymore. It's omnibuses or trade paperbacks, it seems like these days, but still, I do recommend this story. Chip Zdarsky is a phenomenal writer, so if he's writing anything, I'm probably going to check it out or try to get it in the collection. And next up for Marvel, we have some Captain America hype, my favorite superhero over at Marvel. We had tons of Superman hype, who is my favorite superhero at DC. But we now have some Captain America, so it was a really good month. This is Captain America by Jack Kirby, the omnibus. This omnibus has since been reprinted as Captain America Volume 4, so there are technically 2 editions of this omnibus. I don't plan on picking up Captain America Volumes 1 through 4, so I wanted to go the Captain America by Jack Kirby route because this spine isn't going to drive me crazy like that Volume 4 one would have. But that being said, since it's been reprinted, it was also super inexpensive. Therefore, this was also a Christmas gift from the family. This is Jack Kirby coming back to Marvel and writing and drawing Captain America after being over at DC, building his fourth world lore that he kind of established over there at DC. And now he comes back to Marvel and writes one of the most iconic characters there, which is Captain America. Throughout this specific run, you're going to have a ton of super iconic and historical stories that are pretty relevant even in today's day and age. And you're going to have tons of Captain America's supporting cast. And you're going to see why Jack Kirby is called Jack the King Kirby, because he was way ahead of his time when it came to specifically his art and panel work. But I highly recommend this run. This is one of the, I think, first runs that I was kind of exposed to for the character of Captain America. Oddly enough, this is going to feel a lot more dated than obviously modern comics, but it is one of those runs on Cap that I do recommend getting under your belt no matter what. Next up, we have the War of the Realms omnibus. Now, you're probably scratching your head if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, wondering why I picked this up, because I do have Jason Aaron's Thor run collected throughout omnibuses, volume 1 and 2, and volume 2 does collect the War of the Realms event. Well, that's because I'm kind of crazy and I love comic book events. I buy them no matter what, whether they're collected in other omnibuses or not. I just love comic book events. Maybe I'm nuts, maybe I'm stupid, call it what it is, but this omnibus was purchased. I even have Absolute Carnage and King in Black plus Venom by Donny Cates. So that's a little bit of a double dip, which I don't do that often, but I do tend to do it for events. Now, this is the War of the Realms event. This has to do with Jason Aaron's Thor run and the Dark Elves and the invasion of the Dark Elves on Midgard, and all of the heroes pretty much being thrusted into the Asgardian and Viking pantheon and being forced to fight a war. Daredevil plays a huge role in here. The Punisher issues in here are absolutely phenomenal. The Ant-Man issues are great also. And then, of course, it ends with a major focus on the character of Thor, which is always beautiful. But really good stuff. This is a lot of people's favorite event, and that's because of not only the serious tone, but some of the comedic tone applied to a lot of the issues when you have characters that exist on Earth and then suddenly they're fighting frost giants and elves, and you get to see their reaction to that. And so it is a lot of fun. It kind of feels like a fantasy in the Marvel world, which is always kind of fun to play with. But that's War of the Realms. Nothing too much more to say. I think everybody and their mother has read it at this point, how many times it's been collected. But I'm happy to have the actual event omnibus in the collection because, like I said, I just really love events. And last but not least, for Marvel, which is the final book of the haul, we do have The Death of Wolverine, the omnibus. I am not a huge Wolverine fan. I honestly tend to not really like his character, if I'm being honest. I usually like more of his one-off stories, like Enemy of State or Old Man Logan, for example. But I actually really liked Death of Wolverine. I feel like I'm in the minority there. A lot of people have been saying how horrible this story is, but I think they might be a little biased towards the character of Wolverine and not wanting him to die. But I really think the concept of a undying man dying is really interesting, and watching him kind of grip and grapple with his mortality was a lot of fun as well. I think the way that he died was very touching and kind of fitting to the character, and what followed I also really enjoyed, and how that involved the character of X-23, who I really enjoy, I also liked. So overall, I really enjoyed this little event or death in comics. I do like superhero deaths in comics, as tropey as they are, but I also like events, so maybe I just like everything comics, I don't know. But I'm happy to have this omnibus. It's going to be, I think, my first Wolverine omnibus, not counting Wolverine and the X-Men, but if we are counting that, then my second Wolverine omnibus. You let me know how we count that, but still excited to have it. I literally just bought the Death of Wolverine and Hunt for Wolverine hardcovers, I want to say like 6 months ago, and now we have an omnibus. You're welcome. But super pumped, happy to have it, excited to reread it, and of course, once I do, you guys will get a review. Bars. And that does wrap up today's haul, covering everything that I picked up in the month of December 2024. I do apologize for the length of that video. That was everything that I picked up personally, but also a bunch of Christmas gifts, so obviously it was a little bit of a larger haul. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me just talk on and nonstop about comic books and these books. I truly do love comic books, and I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on everything that I picked up, or what you picked up in the month of December. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you are not a part of the community, you could hit that subscribe button. But other than that, stay nerdy.